Hello again, my little conscripts, and welcome to another Mordian Glory video. In today's episode, we are going to be having a little bit of a chit, and dare I say chat, about 11th edition Warhammer 40k. Because believe it or not, the new edition is going to be with us sooner than you think. Current rumours place it at less than a year away. And speaking of rumours, there have been some things coming out about the new edition. And it got me thinking about what I hope we get with 11th edition, but also some of the concerns that I have around it as well. And so, without further ado, let's fix bayonets and dive right into this thing.
Attention guardsmen, the Commissariat has detected you have not yet liked this video. Do so immediately or else you will face the Emperor's wrath. And anyone who has not yet subscribed to the channel will be transferred to the penal battalions. That is all. Move out!
So let's start off with some of the rumours around 11th edition and what we think about them. Number one is apparently the launch box is going to be Space Marines versus Orcs. Obviously, we don't know exactly what's in the launch box, but the general idea of Greenskins versus Marines is definitely one I can get behind and one that I think is a good move from Games Workshop. I've said for a long time now that GW should be doing Space Marines, aka humans, versus aliens for all of their launch boxes. I think one of the big mistakes that GW's made in the past is they've had this focus on the launch box of Space Marines versus Chaos Space Marines, but to the average person looking in, it sounds crazy, it's not all that interesting. If you're trying to get the normies on board, if you're trying to get this product mainstream, then having humans versus evil humans is a bit whatever, but everyone can get behind the idea of humans versus aliens. It's much easier to sell, it's much easier for people to get their heads around, and I think it has a much more broad appeal. Of course, Space Marines were always going to be in the box. They are the poster child. Going for orcs is a savvy move from Games Workshop. Not only are they obviously aliens, so as we said, that's an easy sell to the general public, but also orcs are a very popular army in general. And they're pretty casual and you can get into them and not worry too much, and you can stick to what's in the box or you can kit bash them to your heart's desire. So it just has a lot of appeal to hobbyists and gameplay focused people as well. And then you've also got the added fact that they can really lean into the nostalgia, and Games Workshop knows the value of nostalgia, believe me, and they can start hyping this up as some kind of new Assault on Blackreach box set, which was one of the most popular starter boxes that GW ever produced. It's up there with Battle for Macragge. It might even be bigger than Battle for Macragge. Let me know which you think is more important for those historical box sets. Battle for Macragge and Assault on Blackreach were two very important ones. Now, we've seen Games Workshop essentially redo Battle for Macragge with the Leviathan box set they did for 10th edition. Now them going for Assault on Blackreach makes sense. In fact, I genuinely wonder if Games Workshop will do a made-to-order limited release of the Assault on Blackreach box set, because we did see them do that at the beginning of 10th edition when they did a rerun of Battle for Macragge, because you had the Leviathan box set and they're like, hey, to all you grognards out there, do you want to relive the old days? Here's your Battle for Macragge. And that was a successful and popular made-to-order limited run. So I wonder if they'll do it again. Now, the other big rumor and the main topic for today's video has been some of the information that's been coming out around what is 11th edition going to be. Is it going to be a hard reset, or is it going to be more of an extension of 10th edition? Well, word on the street says is that it's not going to be a hard reset, and instead it is going to be more of a 10.5 edition, where essentially the current edition is updated, they tweak a few things, maybe they refine a few things, take an opportunity to bring a lot of stuff from the rules commentary into the main book, they apply some lessons learned, they bring in things like designer's notes, all that kind of stuff. So the current belief is that it is going to be an 10.5 more than a full hard reset, like we saw from 7th to 8th edition and then from 9th to 10th edition. On the one hand, I think this does have a lot of positive aspects to it. Firstly, it's believed that your current 10th edition codex will be going with you into 11th edition. Now, to be clear, I don't think that means you won't get an 11th edition codex. I think what that means is you'll still have your codex, and then you'll use that for a period of time in 11th as the codexes start coming out, and then at some point you'll get your 11th edition codex. This is very similar to how it worked with 8th to 9th edition. The Guard 8th edition codex actually served us for 5 years before we eventually got our 9th edition one. I think this is a very positive thing, a very, very positive thing for some factions, because one of the big upsets at the end of 9th was that the Guard got our codex, we got our 9th edition codex, and we got to use it for all of 3 months before essentially it got invalidated and 10th edition came along. So I am very happy about the fact that we do get to keep using our codexes. However, having said that, I think it's important to understand there is definitely a negative to this as well. There are some factions out there, let's look at AdMech for example, which we all know were kind of praying that 11th edition was going to fix them, was going to give them a new codex, because the current AdMech codex is just dog shit. Just bad. Most of it's been rewritten at this point, and no matter what GW has been able to do, that faction just hasn't felt right since the beginning of 10th edition. So whilst I'm here as a Guard player going, oh, I quite like my 10th edition codex, I'm kind of glad that I get to keep that going forward for a bit. I know there's going to be factions out there like AdMech, and I would say probably like Genestealer Cult, which even though they're quite powerful right now, their army rule is just bollocks. They've been rewritten too many times. The army just doesn't feel very Genestealer Culty. It just feels a bit meh. So there are going to be armies out there which are like, oh god, I was kind of hoping 11th edition was going to be a reset. And I think this is a really good example of the strange paradox, the strange hypocrisy that I think many of us, including myself, I'm speaking myself, but I know I'm speaking for other people here as well, the hypocrisy and the paradox of the tabletop wargamer. Because on the one hand, I'm kind of glad that 11th edition might slow the pace down a little bit. That the 3-year cycle with all the monthly updates, everything has been a bit crazy, bit of burnout, right? But on the other hand, just having more of the same, I don't think that's what I want as a player. If I had to choose between another 3 years of 10th edition, pretty much as it is now, and 3 years of something totally new, fresh, and interesting. Look, as crazy as it sounds, and I know many of you are going to disagree with me, and I know that I should just be telling you guys, yeah, it's great that we're not in the 3-year cycle. I should be basically towing the party line. But I have to kind of say the truth, and I have to say what I feel like is almost the quiet part out loud, but I quite like how much 40k changes. Maybe I'm just used to it. Maybe it's a Stockholm syndrome. Maybe I've just been brainwashed, but I would rather that the game stayed fresh and interesting than it just stagnate. Because some games I like to play as a side game. Something that I sort of go on a bit of a holiday for, a bit of a palate cleanser. And some games like 40k, I think actually benefit from being one of these games that it's constantly being tweaked and updated and stuff. There's constantly something new to look forward to with 40k. It's weird. I both feel burned out by 40k, but I'm kind of bored. I'm kind of bored of the current state of Warhammer 40k. I want to look forward to like a new Guard codex, and new Guard detachments, maybe an index to launch an edition. I know I shouldn't be saying these things, but that's how I feel. Do you know what I think it is? I think that 40k 10th edition has done a very good job of balancing the game. And some people might scoff at that and go, look at Death Guard, look at Imperial Knights. But no, hear me out. It's way better now than it ever has been. Go back to older editions. People who talk about these things with rose-tinted glasses. And you guys know I'm an old grognard who loves nostalgia. But those old editions were way more broken and way more imbalanced than anything that's happened with 10th edition. Even early 10th edition Eldar. And I know that's a bold claim, but you just got to believe me. So I like that 40k has, and 10th edition, has had this focus on balance and has been constantly trying to improve the gameplay elements of 40k. I actually quite like that as a fundamental principle. What I want from 40k. So what do I want from 11th edition? I want what many people want. I want flavor back in the game. There's this belief at the moment that you can't have flavor and balance, that you have to sacrifice flavor for balance. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think you can have balance, but also have variety, which is the spice of life. 10th edition has been the edition of loss. And that has not been loss in terms of rules and stuff like that. Loss in terms of gameplay quality and stuff like that. It's been loss in terms of variety of models. It might not seem like such a big deal, but having something like the generic Imperial Guard infantry squad, it might not seem like a big deal, but having Krieg Grenadiers alongside Kazkin, even if they basically do the same thing, those things matter. They matter a lot. And so what I want from 11th edition, if it's going to be 10.5 in terms of rules, fine. But it needs to be 11th edition in terms of models and flavors. I don't want a single codex to come out in 11th edition with a single character being the only model that a faction has to look forward to. That's a joke. It's a bad joke without a punchline. I want to see every single faction coming out with huge additions to their model ranges. Things like what the Votan have got recently. Things about what the Guard got with the beginning when we got like a whole new plastic Krieg range. We need more plastic Admech. We need more plastic Custodians. We need plastic like Knight Serfs and all this kind of stuff. We need more. We need to have more Guard regiments. If you're not going to give us generic Guard stuff, GW, then bring back Mordians, bring back Historians, bring back Talan and Steel Legion and all this kind of stuff. I'm willing to accept 10.5 edition in terms of rules focus, but I need to have some models and some lore that I can look forward to. That's where the flavor can be. And I genuinely don't mind. It sounds crazy, but I genuinely don't mind if, you've got like 2 units of infantry that are relatively similar. Like if, let's say you release a Krieg, you've got the Krieg box set. Let's say you release a Mordian box set. I genuinely don't mind if those Mordians play very similarly to the Krieg. They've got Grim Determination, blah, blah. I don't mind. I just need that flavor. I need Flavor Town. That's what is missing from 40k. We need to go from 10th edition being the edition of loss to 11th edition being the edition of gain. A gain in models, a gain in flavor. It needs to feel like 40k isn't just rehashing old ideas. Oh, what Warzone should we do next? Armageddon. No, we need new stuff. New stuff that people can... New and exciting stuff. Okay, because I know some people are going to be like, well, GW tried that. Look at Pariah Nexus. Look, I'm sorry, but Admech versus Necrons, they're both side factors. And I'm not saying they're bad factions, don't get me wrong, but they're both side factions. Now you do a Warzone which is Guard versus Tyranids, I guarantee you that flies off the shelves. Everyone's going to love that because it's Starship Troopers, it's aliens. I know I've said this before, but it's an easy sell. If you're going to have like you can have new war zones that link into existing and classic matchups. You could have Armageddon. Or maybe we could have Guard versus Orcs in another important war zone. A great example of this is Vigilus. Back in 8th edition, we had Vigilus Defiant, Vigilus Ablaze, and that was great. It was a whole new planet, but we had Guard versus Chaos, and we had Genes of the Occult there. It's like this 3-way battle. Vigilus was a great example of GW doing something new and it being well received by the community. Pariah Nexus is a great example of GW doing something new and no one giving a shit. And I'm speaking in broad brush generalizations. I know. But I think it's fair to say that if you're someone that's been around since like 8th edition, Vigilus was a bigger deal than Pariah Nexus ever was. Another thing I want to see from 11th edition, and I have touched on this a little bit in a previous video, but I want to reiterate it here, is I want GW to get their balls back. I feel like they play it too safe at the moment. And an example of this is Emperor's Children. And I know people are going to say, what are you talking about, Mordian? Emperor's Children, they're crazy. Look at them, they're crazy. They're pink Marines. I know. A lot of people are going to be upset with me for saying that, but they're pink Marines. The models are gorgeous. And they look really cool. But it's just another flavor of Space Marine. And you've got pink Marines with... You've got like big pink Marines with cone heads. You've got little pink Marines with guns. You've got little pink Marines. You got tactical Marines, which are pink with bolt pistol and chainsaw. And you got tactical Marines, which are pink with bolters. I mean, that's it. It's about 4 flavors of Marine. I've said this, but Emperor Children need to be crazy. You need to have people running around full. You have to lean into the excess side of it. You have to lean into the sexual side of it. I know. Ooh, taboo. I know, but you should have Marines running around with like a titty out. You should have Marines running around with big dongs out, looking like they belong in 28 years later. That you should be having that. What? Who remembers the was it the Juan Diaz Demonettes? We need that energy back in there. And you're not making it sexual, so people are like beating off. No. It's grotesquely sexual. It's beyond. It's not. It's like a great example of this is look at the Slaaneshi demons. Look at the Keeper of Secrets. That thing's got a titty. But you're not there beating off over it. I mean, some people probably are, but it's the sexual elements to it, but they're not. There's excessive elements to it, but it's not something you're going to be putting up there in the wank bank. You need to be leaning into that. They need to be uncomfortable. I need to be uncomfortable when I am looking at Slaaneshi models. And you've got the other side of it, where there really should have been a Slaaneshi Marine, which wore no armor. I was covered in scars from head to toe. And the whole thing is that, and GW would never do this because they haven't got balls and they don't want to, worry about upsetting someone or doing the right thing. But these Marines should have been covered in head to toe in scars, but self-inflicted scars where they'd been like cutting themselves. Obviously, they're never going to do that, but they should, because the lore behind it is these Marines are so far gone that no amount of sexual deviancy, no amount of excessive drug use, why there's no combat. Think about this: there's no combat stims in the Emperor's Children. How wild is that? There should be roided up junkies running around, but you should have these guys which are, there should be 4 different kind of Marine, and each kind of Marine should represent like something of excess, sexual excess, sexual deviancy, substance excess. You could have ones that, pain excess, just want to feel anything. You have these, you have these perverted, these ones that like perverted, like, these ones that have got like a perverted sense of justice because their moral fiber is gone to the excess. Where they believe that they are laying down, they believe they're doing the right thing to the excess. Do you know what I mean? There's all sorts of crazy things you could do with it, commentary you could do with it, themes you could do with it, satire you could do with it, but you don't have that. Going back to this one where the Marines, like they're running around like cutting themselves because they want to feel any pain. How do you represent the tabletop? You have a normal Marine who doesn't have an armor save. Literally, armor 7+. You don't. When's the last time you saw GW make a Marine that's like with no armor? He's literally a Marine running around in a loincloth, covered in scars, but you give him a 3+ feel no pain. So he's gonna get, because the whole thing is he's like, run at me, shoot me, and then like you blow an arm off, and he finds for the first time in like years, he feels just the slightest twinge of pain. He's like, yes, more, shoot me, and he's doing anything to like provoke them, to like kill him, to like wound him, just so he can feel something. GW should have that, and They should absolutely have that, and they should. And there's it's another example of this is they should be really getting crazy with things like Gene Silical. And I know we're getting a little edgy here, and I have to be a little careful about what I'm saying, but they're really Gene Silical should really be leaning into that fanatical sort of cult freedom fighter side of thing. You know, if we can have guys in bolt action for the Japanese who can run into the side of a tank with a pack of TNT and blow themselves up, there should be something like that in Genesical. And I know it's very controversial, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that don't agree with me on that, and I know there's a lot of people that think that's too far, and maybe that's promoting bad stuff. Okay, I get it, all right? I get it. But what I'm using it as an example. But what I'm saying is I want to see some of that from GW. I want to see some edge. And until GW is a bit ballsy with it, I don't think that certain factions are going to feel right. Why does Genesical just not quite feel right? Because they lean too much into the sort of Xenos hybrid side of things and not enough into the we're a cult. We have fanatical followers. Our guys are mental. But they also don't feel like they're particularly, they don't feel like they're particularly under-equipped and stuff. You really should be leaning into the freedom fighter. You should be leaning into the scary cult side, the terror side. Trying to be careful about, but that's what we should be leaning into with things like Genesical. We need to that's what I want to see from 11th edition. I want to see loads of models coming back. I want to see we've lost all the Forge World stuff. GW's freed up a whole bunch of production capacity. I want to see loads of models, and I want to see those models be edgy. I want to see, if you want me to bring it back, I want to see Penal Legion troops for the Guard. Because the idea of arming prisoners and sending them forward in meat waves is something that is pretty grim. I want to see conscripts back. Call them cadets. They are child soldiers. GW, have the balls. It's not real life. You can have the balls, and the point of 40k is you can use it to, you can use it as an excuse to not worry about real life stuff. You can have child soldiers in there. You can have prison soldiers in there. You can have people blowing themselves up in there. You can have people cutting themselves and excessive substitutes. These are not things that are going to encourage bad behavior. These are almost warnings of it. You're not glorifying it. You're like, oh my God, this is crazy. That's what we need. So I want to see GW get the balls back. I want to see models coming back. I want to see some oomph back in my 40k. We've accepted we need that flavor back, and all of this can be done without messing up the balance of 40k, because GW's got a good formula for the balance of the game now, constant tweaks and all that kind of stuff. I want to see that constant tweaks and in tune with the game. I want to see that combined with some flavor, some edge, and some grit. But all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What do you think about 11th edition? What are your hopes and dreams for the edition? And do you think that it's going to be more of the same? Or do you think GW might start getting freaky with it? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button, and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full-time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Redfield, 32, Jurgens, Miasma, Try Again, Bragg, R.J., Scorpion, Bonbon Vert, Lord Pryor, Nicholas Walsh, John Stubbs, Guardian, Varney, Sword, Fish Trombone, Picklock the Forged. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.